Rain fell over Manhattan like a muted metronome, its rhythm steady and cold. Inside a narrow office on the 22nd floor, Benjamin Hard stood by the window, watching drops crawl down the glass. The city shimmered in reflection, restless, sleepless, indifferent. He preferred it that way. The detective's desk was a study in precision. Case files stacked by date, pens aligned in quiet discipline, and a single cup of green tea, still steaming. The only sound inside was the ticking of a small brass clock, a metronome of his own life. Then, the phone rang. Once. Twice. Benjamin Hard, he answered, his tone calm and even. Mr. Hard, a woman's voice whispered, trembling on the edge of fear. You don't know me. My name is Rachel Pierce. I work with the NYPD. We've found something. It's about Clara Miller. That name made the silence heavier. Clara Miller, the prodigy pianist who vanished a month earlier, hours after performing her last concert at Carnegie Hall. Her husband was found dead the next morning, his wrists cut, his face peaceful. The story had dominated headlines, then vanished as quickly as she had. Benjamin spoke quietly. What did you find? A note, Rachel said. But not a message. It's a sheet of music. Handwritten. It's signed with her initials, CM, and labeled Opus 47. We thought you should see it. Where? Her apartment. 51st and Lexington. We've kept it sealed, but I'll be there in 20 minutes. He hung up without another word. Outside, the streets glistened with rain and exhaust. Benjamin's coat swept behind him as he walked, dark and heavy, his steps measured. A few passers-by turned their heads. There was something about his presence, the calm in his movement, the unspoken authority. He didn't notice them. His mind was already building patterns, a name, a note, a mystery returning from silence. When he reached Clara Miller's apartment building, the lobby was dim, filled with the scent of old marble and wet umbrellas. Officer Pierce was waiting by the elevator, short hair, nervous smile, eyes that tried not to meet his for too long. I've read your reports, she said as they rode up. You see things others miss. Benjamin glanced at her reflection in the mirrored wall. That's what they say. Doesn't mean I enjoy it. The elevator doors opened to a corridor washed in soft blue light from police lanterns. The apartment door stood open, marked with tape. Inside, silence, dust, and the faintest trace of perfume, faded like a forgotten melody. He stepped inside slowly. The living room was immaculate, almost staged. On the grand piano near the window, a single sheet of paper waited, cream-colored, the ink slightly smeared by a drop of water. Benjamin approached. The handwriting was elegant, precise, musical notation running across the page like a secret language. Above the staff, 2 words, Opus 47. He studied it for a moment, then noticed something odd. Several notes were inverted, written backward, as if reflected in a mirror. Small red circles marked specific intervals. To most eyes, it would look like eccentricity. To Benjamin, it screamed intention. She was leaving a message, he said quietly. Officer Pierce frowned. In a piece of music? In her world, he replied, there's no safer place to hide one. He crouched, scanning the piano. A faint layer of dust, except for a single key, the E-flat, recently pressed. He struck it gently. The note rang sharp and lonely through the room. Somewhere inside, a faint echo replied, metal shifting. He froze. Then followed the sound to the wall beside the piano. There, behind a framed concert poster, he found a small metal latch. With careful pressure, it opened, revealing a narrow compartment. Inside lay a silver flash drive and a folded piece of paper. On it, written in that same elegant hand. For the one who listens, not just hears. Benjamin's eyes narrowed. He pocketed the drive, his mind already assembling fragments. Notes. Mirrors. Messages. And a pianist who vanished, leaving music as breadcrumbs. He turned to Rachel. "Seal this room again. Nobody else touches anything. Do you think she's alive?" He didn't answer. Instead, he looked back at the piano, the paper, the open city beyond the glass. "Right now," he said quietly, "I think she wants to be found." Benjamin sat at his desk hours later, the flash drive lying beside his cooling tea. The city outside his loft pulsed with neon veins, lights flickering like broken memories. Somewhere below, sirens wept through the streets. He turned the flash drive in his fingers before sliding it into his laptop. The screen flickered, revealing a single folder titled E-flat. Inside, 12 short audio files. Each no longer than 20 seconds. Each named after a note. He played the first one. A single piano chord. Soft, hesitant. Then silence. The next. A low, trembling tone. Almost like a heartbeat buried beneath the melody. Benjamin leaned closer, his brow furrowing. The recording wasn't just music, it was layered, coded. In the background, faint breathing. A whisper of movement. And something else, a voice, distant, almost erased by static. He slowed the playback, filtered the frequencies. A word surfaced. "Find." He replayed the file again and again, isolating each fragment until the phrase became clear. "Find me before he does." Benjamin sat back, the chair creaking beneath him. His expression didn't change, but his pulse quickened. He replayed the other files, together, they formed a pattern. The keys Clara used were identical to the ones circled in red on her Opus 47. Each note wasn't just sound, it was direction. He pulled out a city map and began marking them. E-flat, A, G, D sharp. Coordinates? No. But then he noticed it, each note's position matched a district of Manhattan, and when connected, they formed a line running from Carnegie Hall to the East River docks. "The pier," he murmured. "She's leading me to the water." An hour later, the rain had stopped, leaving the streets glazed and silent. Benjamin's coat brushed against puddles as he moved through the sleeping city. The docks near 89th were empty, save for a single flickering lamp. He scanned the area. Crates stacked high, chains rusting, the air thick with salt and oil. Then, a faint sound. A melody, half drowned by wind. Someone had left a small music box on a barrel, playing the same progression from Opus 47. Benjamin approached cautiously. Beneath the box, a card rested, weighed down by a small silver coin. On it. "You're close. But you're not the only one listening." A shadow moved at the far end of the dock. Tall, motionless, watching. Benjamin's hand slipped into his coat, not for a weapon, but for the flashlight clipped inside. He aimed it toward the figure. "Police," he said sharply. "Show me your hands." The beam caught only mist and movement, the silhouette was gone. The only trace left was the echo of footsteps and the faint click of something metallic falling into the water. Benjamin approached the edge. Floating there, caught against the pier, was a torn scrap of paper. He pulled it out carefully. The same handwriting. The same ink. "Lowell watches. Don't trust the mirrors." His jaw tightened. Garrett Lowell, Clara's therapist. A man he had read about in her old interviews. Soft voice, calm demeanor, praised for his innovative emotional recovery methods. But there were rumors, patients disappearing, sessions unrecorded, reports sealed. Benjamin pocketed the note and looked out over the black water. Somewhere in that darkness, the rest of the truth waited, and someone else was already chasing it. By the time he returned to his loft, dawn had begun bleeding over the skyline. The rain-soaked city turned pale gold, fragile and quiet. He set the torn note beside the others, creating a growing constellation of clues. On the wall above his desk hung a map of New York. He drew a thin red line from Clara's apartment to the pier. 2 points connected, 2 movements in a symphony not yet complete. He took a slow sip of tea, then reached for the piano in the corner. His fingers hovered over the keys. E flat. A, D sharp. The same pattern from her recordings. When he played them together, a new harmony formed, unsettling, but deliberate. And beneath it, he felt something new, not just fear, but design. Clara wasn't running from someone. She was guiding him toward something. Benjamin smiled faintly. "You're clever, Clara," he whispered. "But so am I." Outside, the city woke, unaware that a new game had begun. Morning sunlight filtered through the blinds of Benjamin's loft, cutting thin lines across the wooden floor. He hadn't slept. The city outside was alive again, horns, footsteps, voices, yet his thoughts stayed anchored in silence. On the screen before him glowed a photo, Dr. Garrett Lowell, licensed psychotherapist, graduate of Yale, author of The Fragments of Mind. His expression in the picture was calm, trustworthy, the kind of face that made people confess their secrets. Benjamin had seen that kind of calm before. It was never innocent. Lowell's office was located on the Upper East Side, a modest building of glass and gray stone. Benjamin closed the laptop, slipped on his coat, and left without a word. The waiting room smelled faintly of lavender and old paper. A soft piano piece played from hidden speakers, Clara Miller's Nocturne in F minor. It wasn't coincidence. Nothing ever was. A receptionist looked up, startled by the tall man in the doorway. "Do you have an appointment?" she asked. Benjamin smiled faintly. "You could say that." He handed her a card. It was blank on both sides. Before she could protest, a voice came from inside the corridor. "It's all right, Melissa. Send him in." Dr. Lowell stood there, tall, composed, wearing a charcoal suit that mirrored Benjamin's own restraint. His hair was silver at the temples, his gaze steady and too confident. "I was expecting you," he said, motioning toward the chair across from his desk. Benjamin sat, silent. "You're here about Clara," Lowell continued. "Everyone seems to be." Benjamin's eyes moved across the office. Shelves of psychology books. A metronome ticking softly beside a half-empty glass of water. On the wall, framed concert photos of Clara Miller, each signed. "You keep her pictures," Benjamin said quietly. "That's unusual for a therapist." Lowell's lips curved slightly. "I keep reminders of my patient's progress." Clara was special. Her mind was exquisite. But fragile. Benjamin leaned forward. "You knew she was in danger." "Danger?" Lowell repeated, tilting his head. Clara was her own danger. Genius often is. He turned the metronome with one finger. The ticking grew louder, steadier. "You think she left you a message, Mr. Hart?" "I think she left you a trap." Benjamin's eyes hardened. "You sound nervous for a man with nothing to hide." Lowell smiled thinly. "On the contrary, I'm fascinated. You see patterns, connections, motives, that's your art. Mine is creating them." There was a pause. The ticking stopped. Benjamin stood. "If you're trying to scare me, doctor, you'll need to try harder." "Oh, I'm not trying to scare you," Lowell said softly. "But you'll find the next note soon. When you do, remember, she isn't the only one who plays." Outside, Benjamin walked into the cool afternoon air, his pulse steady but his thoughts racing. Lowell knew far too much. The man wasn't just observing the game, he was conducting it. Back in his car, Benjamin replayed the recordings from the flash drive. This time, a new file had appeared. One that hadn't been there before. File_13.mp3. He frowned. Plugged the drive back in. The track began, faint piano, the same haunting motif. Then Clara's voice, fragile but determined. He's listening. Every sound, every silence. Don't trust what you hear. A chill ran down Benjamin's spine. The file ended with a sharp noise, a single piano key struck hard, followed by the sound of something shattering. He looked up. Across the street, through the reflection in the glass, he saw a figure standing beside a black car, watching. Lowell. Their eyes met for half a second before the car pulled away into traffic. Benjamin exhaled slowly, gripping the steering wheel. This wasn't a hunt anymore. It was a duel. That night, back in his loft, he laid out the evidence. The coded notes. The torn paper from the dock. The new file. Each piece was precise, deliberate, but now the pattern curved toward danger. He wrote 2 words in his notebook. Control and chaos. Lowell thrived on both. Benjamin stood by the window, the city lights painting him in fractured gold. Somewhere out there, Clara was still alive, or had been. But each move brought him closer to someone who didn't just want to stop him. Someone who wanted to test him. He poured himself a cup of tea, his reflection merging with the skyline. Then, from the desk, his phone buzzed. Unknown number. One message. Do you hear it too, Benjamin? He looked at the screen for a long moment before turning it face down. The metronome in his mind started ticking again, slower now, heavier. Whatever this was, it was only the beginning. The rain had returned by nightfall, thin and relentless, tracing lines down Benjamin's car windshield. The message on his phone replayed in his mind like a haunting refrain, "Do you hear it too, Benjamin?" He drove south through the city, guided by instinct more than logic. Clara's coded notes lingered in his thoughts, the pattern forming something incomplete. One symbol, hidden within the last measure of Opus 47, had caught his eye, a faint sketch resembling a building's window. Under magnification, it became unmistakable, an old logo, half erased, belonging to the Riverside Rehearsal Hall in Tribeca. He parked outside the abandoned structure just past midnight. The street was deserted, shrouded in the echo of dripping water and distant sirens. A rusted sign swayed weakly above the door. Benjamin slipped on gloves and pushed the door open. It creaked like something alive. Inside, the air smelled of dust and varnish, a faint trace of rosin clinging to the wooden floor. Broken music stands lay scattered like fallen soldiers. Faded mirrors lined the far wall, cracked and warped, reflecting fragments of his silhouette. He turned on his flashlight. Chalk marks across the floor led toward the main stage. He followed them slowly, counting each step, 12 in total, like the files on the flash drive. The marks ended at an upright piano, lid open, strings exposed. A small note rested atop the keys. "You listen well, Benjamin. Let's see how well you see." Faint wires trailed from beneath the piano toward the floorboards. He froze. They connected to a small black box with a blinking red light. A trap. Benjamin crouched low, tracing the wires to a side panel. Behind a loose board, he found an old reel-to-reel recorder, still humming faintly. He pressed play. A calm voice filled the empty hall, "Lowell. You're thorough, Mr. Hart. But do you wonder why people like you are drawn to puzzles? Perhaps it's not curiosity, perhaps it's fear. Fear of stillness. Fear of silence." A faint laugh followed. Clara feared silence too. "That's how I found her." Benjamin's jaw tightened. The tape ended with a sharp, discordant chord, echoing like a scream trapped in strings. Then a soft click, the recorder spun faster. Mirrors on the wall flickered as hidden projectors cast distorted images across the room, Clara on stage, hands trembling, face pale. Lowell's whisper beneath the flicker, "She wanted to stop playing. I didn't let her." The mirrors fractured further. One shattered, glass raining like shards of ice. Benjamin ducked behind seats, pulse steady but cold. He yanked the projector cord, silence returned. Rain whispered against the roof. Outside, a single polished piano key lay near the entrance, engraved with 47. Beneath it, faint letters, Mercy. He pocketed it, glancing back. Clara had been here, or Lowell wanted him to think so. The game was accelerating. Back in the car, the key joined the other clues. Lowell wasn't hiding anymore, he was conducting. Benjamin started the engine. In the rearview mirror, a fleeting shadow shifted. Nothing. Rain. Heartbeat. He exhaled. "You're not in my head, Lowell," he muttered. But he knew he already was. By dawn, the loft glowed gray. The broken key lay next to the note and flash drive. Together, a riddle yet unsolved. He played E-flat again on the piano. For a second, a faint, human sound echoed back. A whisper. "Hurry." Benjamin froze. The room was still, but the echo lingered. Clara was alive. And running out of time. The city was quieter than usual, as if Manhattan itself held its breath. Benjamin's car wound through narrow streets until he reached the Upper East Side. The address, a crumbling theater abandoned decades ago, matched the next coordinate from Opus 47. The faint outline of its marquee, peeling and dark, hinted at forgotten grandeur. He parked in the shadows and approached on foot. Every step echoed against brick walls, every puddle reflecting faint moonlight. His instincts screamed that this was no ordinary visit. Lowell had escalated the game. Inside, the theater smelled of mildew and rosin. Rows of seats, covered in dust, stretched toward the stage. The faintest drafts carried whispers, as if the building remembered performances long past. Benjamin's flashlight cut across peeling wallpaper, broken chandeliers, and shattered glass. On the stage, a grand piano sat under a dim spotlight. Beside it, a sheet of music, another fragment of Opus 47, was pinned to a chair with a small dagger. The notes were circled in crimson, mirrored like the last messages. Benjamin moved closer, careful not to disturb the dagger. He traced the lines of music with his finger. Every note formed a code, leading to an old trapdoor beneath the stage. He crouched and pressed it open. A narrow stairwell spiraled down into darkness. The faint scent of wet wood and metal filled the air. He descended, flashlight trembling slightly in his grip. Midway down, a soft click echoed, a tripwire. He froze. Lowell. Always a step ahead. Benjamin scanned the stairwell and spotted a thin wire running along the railing, connected to a small, blinking box. He stepped around it, following the steps silently, counting each one. At the bottom, the corridor opened into a hidden rehearsal room. Sheet music littered the floor. Mirrors reflected him in broken, distorted forms. A single recording device sat on a desk, playing the faintest echo of a piano. Then, a shadow moved. Benjamin pivoted. A figure emerged from the far corner, masked by darkness. Lowell. Calm, deliberate, a smile barely visible. "Ah, Benjamin," he said softly. "I wondered how long it would take before you followed her trail here. She's clever, but I taught her well." Benjamin's fingers tightened on the flashlight. "This ends tonight, Lowell. Whatever game you're playing, it's over." Lowell chuckled, slow and precise. "Is it? Or has it only just begun? Clara left me, a parting gift. And now, you will appreciate it too." Suddenly, the lights flickered. Mirrors on the walls began projecting fragments of Clara's past performances, her face flashing in every direction. The room seemed to close in. Benjamin's heart raced. Every surface reflected multiple Lowells, illusions, traps, psychological warfare. He realized Lowell hadn't just set physical traps, he had turned the theater into a maze of fear and control. He moved toward the piano, ducking another tripwire. Beneath one key, a hidden latch clicked. Inside, another clue, a small box containing a torn page of Clara's journal, soaked and fragile. He knows. He watches. The music is the only way to guide him. Trust the notes, not the mirrors. Benjamin's jaw tightened. Lowell advanced slowly, deliberate, a predator savoring the hunt. Benjamin felt the thrill of danger, his mind racing, calculating, analyzing every move. He struck a key on the piano, E-flat, sending a sharp note through the theater. Lowell froze. A signal. Clara's code was alive, guiding him still. Benjamin lunged for the stairwell, but Lowell blocked the way. Their eyes locked, two predators, one city, one game. Lowell's calm demeanor masked lethal intent, but Benjamin's focus was sharper, his mind faster. A misstep, Lowell grabbed the railing. Benjamin pivoted, ducked, and disappeared into the shadows of the hidden corridor. The echo of his footsteps mingled with Lowell's frustrated hiss. Back on the stairs, Benjamin paused. He now understood the pattern, each location, each note, each trap, led to Lowell's control. And yet, Clara had left a path, a sequence of Opus 47, that only someone with his mind could follow. He exhaled slowly, gripping the torn journal page. The chase wasn't over. But now, the theater had revealed more than traps, it had revealed Lowell's obsession. And Benjamin had the first real proof that Clara's disappearance wasn't just escape, it was survival. The loft was silent except for the soft hum of Benjamin's laptop and the occasional drip of water from a cracked window frame. He spread the torn pieces of Clara's notes, journal entries, and the flash drive recordings across the desk. Each fragment was a clue, a puzzle piece of her disappearance, yet together they began to form a map, not of the city, but of her mind. He replayed the newest audio file. The piano tones aligned perfectly with the markings on the torn journal page. Each note corresponded to a memory, a hidden location, a fragment of her story. Clara had encoded her path to safety within her music, a literal hidden symphony. Benjamin traced his finger along the map on the wall. The docks. The rehearsal hall. Now the theater. Lines intersected, forming a pattern only visible when the notes and locations were combined. Lowell was orchestrating every step, watching from the shadows. But Clara had left breadcrumbs. She was clever, but he had to be sharper. He poured himself a cup of green tea, the steam curling into the dim light. Each sip focused him, centering the whirlwind of thought. Lowell had one objective, control. Clara had one objective, survival. And Benjamin's objective was simple, follow her trail without falling into the traps. A new file appeared on the flash drive, automatically copied from the silver box at the theater. He played it. Clara's voice, faint, almost ethereal. He wants to see you panic. He thinks the notes are just music. But they're instructions. Don't trust the mirrors. He watches all sound, but the notes, only the notes are safe. Benjamin paused. Only the notes were safe. That explained the chaos in the rehearsal hall, Lowell's illusions, projections, psychological manipulations. The mirrors were designed to disorient, to provoke fear. But the music carried truth, rhythm, and direction. He compared the new notes with the previous ones. Hidden symbols emerged, numbers, letters, small sketches, maps of rooms, doors, and secret passages. Lowell was precise, calculating, leaving trails for both Clara and any pursuer. Benjamin leaned back, rubbing his eyes. He understood now why Lowell had allowed the notes to exist. They were a challenge, a game. A duel of intellect. A test of perception. The next location, he realized, wasn't just a theater or a hall. It was a place Lowell considered his stronghold, the final act of the symphony. The Upper East Side Theater had been a prelude, the next stop would bring them face to face. And Lowell would not hesitate to strike. Benjamin's phone buzzed. A single message, no number. She is closer. Are you? He stood, pacing. The apartment, the notes, the flash drives, the piano keys, everything was a network of hidden signals. Each location had been a movement, each note a motif. Clara's disappearance was not random. It was composition. He packed the notes, the torn journal, and the E-flat key. As he slipped his coat on, a faint reflection in the window caught his eye, a shadow moved in the building opposite. Lowell. Watching. Waiting. Calculating. Benjamin exhaled, gripping the piano key. He whispered to himself. Clara isn't lost. She's leading us. And I won't let him win. The city hummed beneath him, indifferent, but he felt the rhythm of a symphony only he could hear. Every note, every shadow, every heartbeat was part of the hidden score. And the crescendo was coming. He stepped into the night, ready to follow Clara's final movement. The city night was still, almost unnaturally so, as Benjamin navigated the narrow streets toward the next point on Clara's map. The clues led him to an abandoned warehouse near the East River docks, a place where the fog hugged the ground and every creak echoed like a scream. He approached carefully, flashlight in hand. The warehouse doors hung on rusted hinges, slightly ajar. Inside, the smell of damp wood and rusted metal filled the air. Shadows clung to the corners, as if the building itself were alive. Benjamin paused, scanning the open floor. Sheets of music lay scattered, leading toward a central platform, a raised stage for loading docks long forgotten. The notes on the papers were familiar, each one a fragment of Opus 47. He crouched to examine them. Then, a faint sound, a click, almost imperceptible. He froze. The floor beneath him shifted subtly. Tripwire. He carefully traced the line with his flashlight. Wires connected to small metal plates embedded in the floorboards, linked to an intricate mechanism. Lowell had anticipated his every move. Benjamin's pulse quickened, but he remained calm. One wrong step could trigger a deadly trap. He moved slowly, tracing the safest path along the scattered notes, using the music itself as a guide. Each note corresponded to a tile, a safe step, a rhythm of survival. Halfway across, the platform groaned. A panel beneath him shifted. Dust and splinters fell. Lowell's voice echoed through a hidden speaker system, calm and deliberate. Impressive, Benjamin. You read patterns well. But can you read people? Can you anticipate fear? Benjamin's jaw tightened. He ignored the voice, focused on the sequence of notes. Step by step, he inched forward, each note a lifeline. A faint smell of smoke wafted from one corner, a distraction. Another trap. He reached the center of the platform. The final note here was a D sharp, marked with crimson ink. He pressed down on the floorboard beneath it, and a hidden compartment opened. Inside, another piece of Clara's journal. He knows every step, but not every thought. Trust your mind, not your eyes. Suddenly, a shadow lunged from above, a cable swung like a pendulum, aimed at him. Benjamin rolled to the side, narrowly avoiding the strike. Sparks flew as the cable hit a metal support beam. Lowell had been there, setting physical traps in addition to psychological ones. Benjamin grabbed the journal, scanning for clues to the next step. There it was, a faint pencil mark, forming a symbol of a theater stage. The Upper East Side Theater. The final movement. He moved toward the exit cautiously, aware that every shadow, every sound could conceal danger. His instincts were sharp, but Lowell's traps had grown more unpredictable, more deadly. At the doorway, Benjamin paused. He glanced back at the platform, littered with wires, tripwires, and scattered sheet music. Lowell had orchestrated this entire warehouse like a symphony of fear. Benjamin exhaled slowly. He had survived, but only just. Outside, the city's lights reflected on the wet pavement. The wind carried faint sounds of piano music, distant, deliberate. Clara's presence felt near, yet still hidden. Benjamin slipped into the night, clutching the journal and the piano key. Lowell had escalated the game, but Benjamin knew one truth: Clara's notes were not just music. They were a guide, a lifeline, a secret map only he could follow. The next movement awaited. And the crescendo was imminent. The Upper East Side Theater loomed ahead, its once grand facade crumbling beneath layers of neglect. Moonlight cut through broken windows, scattering fractured light across the empty street. Benjamin approached cautiously, the torn journal and E-flat key secure in his coat pocket. Each step echoed against graffiti-streaked walls, a rhythm in sync with his pulse. Inside, the air was thick with dust and the scent of decay. Rows of seats stretched toward the stage, their upholstery faded and torn. Broken chandeliers hung like skeletal remains, swaying slightly from drafts. Shadows clung to every corner, and Benjamin's flashlight barely penetrated the gloom. He advanced slowly, scanning for traps. Every movement, every sound could be a trigger. Lowell's presence was palpable, even if invisible. The faintest sound of a piano key, or was it just the wind, kept him on edge. On the stage, he found another fragment of Opus 47, pinned to a chair with a slender dagger. The notes were circled, mirrored, and coded. He crouched, tracing them carefully. The floorboards beneath shifted subtly. Another trap. Lowell's voice echoed softly through hidden speakers, calm yet mocking. "Ah, Benjamin. You followed the trail perfectly. But the final movement, that is mine to conduct." Benjamin stiffened. He knew Lowell thrived on psychological control, manipulating fear like a conductor with an orchestra. He pressed down on a hidden floor panel beneath a D-sharp note. A small compartment opened, inside, a fragile, torn page of Clara's journal. "The music is the only truth. He sees the world through fear, but the notes show the way. Trust them." Suddenly, a cable swung from above, aimed at him. He rolled to the side, narrowly avoiding a crushing strike. Sparks flew as it struck a metal support beam. Lowell's physical traps were precise, deadly, designed to intimidate as much as injure. Benjamin moved toward the piano. The stage was a maze of wires, tripwires, and mirrors reflecting fractured images of the room. Lowell's presence felt everywhere at once, an omnipresent threat. He struck a key, E-flat, and a faint vibration revealed a hidden latch. Another clue, a metal box containing recordings and documents. A shadow moved in the corner. Lowell stepped forward, calm, confident, predatory. "You're clever, Benjamin. But cleverness alone won't save you." Benjamin met his gaze. Every instinct screamed danger, yet his mind calculated, analyzed, anticipated. The confrontation wasn't just physical, it was intellectual. Lowell advanced, hands empty but threatening. Benjamin grabbed a length of cable nearby, ready to defend himself if necessary. The space between them was charged with tension, a standoff orchestrated by Lowell's design. Then, from the shadows, a faint sound, a piano chord, echoed. Clara's presence, guiding him still. The note aligned with the pattern of Opus 47, revealing a hidden path across the stage. Benjamin moved, carefully, deliberately, following the music. Lowell's smirk faltered. Benjamin was using the very symphony Lowell thought he controlled as a weapon against him. Step by step, note by note, Benjamin approached the final trapdoor, the key to Clara's survival. Lowell lunged suddenly, aiming to block him, but Benjamin pivoted, slipping past. The predator's plan began to unravel. The final act was imminent. Outside the theater, the wind carried faint echoes of piano music, fractured and haunting. Inside, Benjamin reached the trapdoor. He paused, listening. Lowell's breath, the faint hum of tension, the rhythm of notes guiding him, all aligned. Benjamin opened the door, descending into darkness. The hidden world below was the final stage. And Lowell knew it. The hidden stairwell beneath the theater was damp, dark, and suffocating. Benjamin's flashlight cut through the shadows, illuminating peeling paint, scattered debris, and the faint, lingering scent of rosin. Every step echoed ominously. Lowell had orchestrated this descent like a composer building tension toward a final chord. At the bottom, a narrow corridor twisted into darkness. Faint markings, musical notes etched into the walls, guided Benjamin forward. He recognized the sequence immediately, Opus 47. Each note a step, each measure a warning. One false move, and the last trap would activate. Benjamin moved cautiously, mapping the floor beneath him. Hidden wires and pressure plates lay in wait. A faint click underfoot made him pause. Lowell's presence wasn't just physical anymore, it was embedded in the environment, psychological warfare turned lethal. Ahead, a small room emerged. Inside, a single spotlight illuminated a piano. Sheet music covered the floor like a trail of breadcrumbs, leading to a locked metal cabinet. Benjamin approached, noticing the subtle distortion of the walls, mirrors angled to make the space appear larger, more confusing. Lowell's signature. "You've come far," Lowell's voice echoed from hidden speakers, calm and cruel. "But the final movement is mine to conduct." Benjamin's pulse quickened. He crouched, studying the cabinet. The lock was sophisticated, mechanical, but not unsolvable. He applied his knowledge of patterns, gears, and mechanisms, and within minutes, the lock clicked open. Inside, a small stack of documents, a flash drive, and a key marked Opus 47. Suddenly, the room shifted. Panels slid along the walls, forming a narrow trap corridor. Lowell appeared at the end, calm, composed, but eyes gleaming with menace. "You understand patterns, Benjamin. But can you anticipate chaos?" A trap activated, floor panels dropped slightly, sending Benjamin staggering. Metal cables whipped across his path, forcing him to dodge and pivot with every movement. Lowell advanced slowly, deliberately, ensuring that fear and tension climbed with each second. Benjamin's mind raced. Every clue Clara had left, every note, every journal entry, aligned to form a safe path. He moved methodically, trusting the symphony she had composed for him. The cables swished dangerously close, mirrors distorted perception, and Lowell's shadow merged with the reflections, creating multiple threats. He reached the piano, striking E-flat. A hidden compartment opened, revealing another recording, Clara's voice, faint but determined. "Follow the notes. He can't control the melody. Only you can." Benjamin's eyes flicked to the mirrored walls, calculating angles, distances, and timing. He lunged forward at the perfect moment, rolling under a swinging cable and knocking Lowell back. Sparks flew from exposed wiring. Lowell stumbled, his calm mask slipping. "You shouldn't," he hissed, but Benjamin didn't wait. He grabbed the documents, the key, and the flash drive. The final clue, Clara's location, was within reach. Benjamin sprinted toward the hidden door she had marked, ignoring Lowell's desperate attempts to intercept. The corridor narrowed, cables whipping past him. Step by step, guided by the notes, he reached the exit. Outside, the city's lights reflected on wet pavement. He paused, exhaling sharply, adrenaline surging. Lowell's voice still echoed faintly from the theater. "This isn't over." Benjamin clutched the flash drive and key. He knew better. This was over. Lowell had lost control, the game, the traps, the illusions. Clara had guided him safely, and now the final act could unfold. He turned toward the next location. The last piece of Opus 47 awaited, and with it, the truth behind Clara's disappearance, the unraveling of Lowell's manipulations, and the conclusion of a deadly symphony. Benjamin's mind was clear. Every note, every shadow, every trap, understood. He was ready. The loft was silent, bathed in the soft gray light of early morning. Benjamin arranged the scattered pieces of Opus 47 on the desk, each note, each journal fragment, each key aligned perfectly. The symphony of clues was complete. Every trap, every shadow, every trick Lowell had orchestrated was accounted for. He inserted the flash drive into his laptop. The screen flickered, revealing video footage from hidden cameras at the theater, the rehearsal hall, and the warehouse. Clara moved carefully through each location, leaving coded messages, notes, and keys. Lowell had watched her every step, but she had anticipated him, leaving a trail that only someone with Benjamin's mind could follow. A sudden knock at the loft door startled him. He reached for the nearest object, a sturdy candlestick, but relaxed when a familiar voice called softly. "Benjamin." He opened the door. There she was, Clara Miller. Dressed simply, her hair slightly tousled, eyes wide but calm. Relief and exhaustion intermingled in her gaze. "Clara," Benjamin breathed. "You're safe." She stepped inside, placing a small hand on the edge of his desk, glancing at the completed notes. "I knew you would follow. The music, it was the only way to guide someone I could trust. And I trusted you." Benjamin nodded, eyes scanning her face for any sign of danger. "Lowell." Clara exhaled sharply. "He's trapped. The flash drives, the recordings, the documents you found, police evidence now. I made sure of it before coming here. He won't hurt anyone else." Benjamin allowed himself a brief smile. The city outside moved unaware of the danger that had lurked in abandoned buildings, docks, and theaters. Lowell's obsession, his manipulations, had unraveled. Clara walked over to the piano in the loft. Fingers brushing lightly across the keys, she played the first notes of Opus 47. The melody was haunting, delicate, yet powerful. Each chord echoed the journey they had taken, the danger, the fear, the pursuit, and finally, survival. Benjamin listened, noting how the music matched the encoded clues. Every note was a step, every measure a map, every pause a warning. The entire composition was a testament to Clara's resilience and intelligence. "I wanted him to be stopped," Clara said softly. "But I also wanted him to be exposed. The music, it was my shield and my signal." Benjamin nodded, placing the E-flat key beside the sheet music. "And it worked. We solved it. Together." Outside, the faint sounds of traffic and early morning life reminded them that the city would continue unaware. But inside, a quiet triumph lingered. The symphony was complete, the puzzle solved, the predator unmasked. Clara turned to Benjamin, her expression sincere. "Thank you for trusting the music. For trusting me. You followed every note, every shadow, every trap. You saw what he wanted hidden." Benjamin smiled faintly, his usual calm and collected demeanor softened by relief. "It's what I do. But you wrote a symphony only someone who understands people could follow." She laughed softly, a sound of pure relief and joy. "And you did. Now it's over." Benjamin leaned back, letting himself relax for the first time in days. He reviewed the notes, the journal, the piano keys, each representing a chapter in Clara's story, and in their shared ordeal. Lowell was exposed. Clara was safe. And Opus 47, the melody of secrets, survival, and intellect, had found its final movement. The last note lingered in the loft, resonating with the quiet triumph of intelligence over manipulation, courage over fear, and trust over control. Benjamin and Clara shared a brief, understanding glance. The city outside remained unaware, but inside, the symphony of survival played its final chord. The music had revealed the truth. The game was over. And finally, justice and clarity reigned.